Hello everyone. I have been asked quite a few questions about my spread cannon design. I also wanted to go over some of the things that you have to consider when you're trying to build a cannon meant for race for wool style competition. But first, let's fire. Yummy. The spread cannon is reasonably simple to build. I usually start by either placing or etching into the wall these two sets of blocks spaced by 1. It sort of helps frame everything, and then I go around with half blocks until they meet up like this. Nice little smiley face. Maybe it's a bearded grin. I also place a half block back here, so it's easy to load TNT into this space from behind if I ever need to. The water goes here, and there's a reason it goes here and not in the and not here. But we will get to that in a second. Then I add a block here, which a button will be placed on. Then you go out 1, up 1, and then you bring little arms out until they are over this half block. And this doesn't really need to be a half block. I mean, this would work just as well, but you don't get the grin that way. Second button goes here, and then you put redstone. Oops. You put redstone on top of the original 4 starter blocks, and then you put redstone all on top of this spar. The water goes here. If you were to place TNT here, there's nothing here that would ignite it. I had at one point had TNT there, but there was a chance that it could fall and catch on this half block if it was facing one direction versus another, and I really don't want my cannons to be that directional based. Anyway, so the water goes here, and I usually have a block here to make it slightly harder for me to accidentally put something in here. And then you can simply load it up. This is it at its full power. Destroying ladders was not the original purpose of this cannon. I originally designed it as a way to break out of a situation we were in the first Race for Wool match versus Team Tunnel Rat. We had a full wall up, which you don't see here. They had a full wall up, and they were able to snipe us with impunity, and they had a cannon somewhere over here that was able to hit our bridge, preventing us from getting into pain water. And I wanted a way to break out of this situation. After countless hours of trial and error, I fell upon this design. Need a very short timing here, and hopefully that's the first shot. So with just 2 shots from this cannon, it has completely obliterated their bridge, exposing them to both our arrow fire and preventing them from getting back if they manage to get the wool. This brings me to the first point of thought. Most of the cannon research design in Minecraft thus far has been focused on range and destructive power. In Race for Wool maps, you really don't need to have that much of a range. It's 16 blocks for one lane, and then there's a 16 block gap between them, and then your lane itself is another 16 blocks. So that means if you were to build a cannon all the way in the back, it really wouldn't need to fire more than 48 blocks. One of the cannon designs that are actually provided in the map can easily outrange that. If I were to load this one up and fire it, it easily shoots way longer than it needs to. Now, obviously, you don't need to fully load the cannon to shoot it, but what this means is that this cannon could technically be a little shorter. Now, it's fine for the ones that are already in there because you didn't have to build them, but if you're building one from scratch, you want to find areas where you can save a little, either resources or time. Another thing that's important to remember is that while there are a lot of blocks of TNT in the map, I think there's about 1,500 blocks per side, there really isn't that much redstone, and you may also not be near it when you need it. So the cost of a cannon to build is very important. If you can build one without redstone, then you are at an advantage. This is a design that, actually let me tear it out a little bit here. This is a design that I've called the heart cannon because if you look at it from the top, it looks like a heart. Aww. It does not use any redstone. Its range is somewhat limited. And in the configuration I'm showing you, it's not that safe to load, but it can be made safe to load. Just doesn't look as clean. And that lagged a little bit, so I'm going to show it to you again. We're going to try a lower shot this time. Okay, we're going to fire again. The heart cannon was mostly developed to find a way to destroy beds, and I'm going to load this house up with some beds to show its effectiveness at that. Alright, let's see how to build it. I usually start by placing half blocks in a sort of a T shape, pointing the direction that I want to fire. Then I place 2 blocks on either side, one, back a little bit. Place a half block here and here. And a solid block here. As you can see, it now looks like a heart. Aww. You can place water here, but today I am going to place, if I can find it, lava, because this is the kind of cannon you can do that with. A lot of the trough style cannons don't work with this because lava flows a lot slower, but because this is only 1 block away on either direction from it, it works reasonably well. But imagine a situation where you're so far from water you can't get any, but there's, lava nearby. And this becomes somewhat useful. There is a chance that the TNT will ignite and blow up, but it takes quite a while to reach that situation. For the next part, build up a block so it's floating in air like that. This is where all of the TNT gets attached to, and this is the button that fires the charge. I normally build up walls around this because it constrains the firing pattern. I'll show it to you first with the firing pattern constrained because it makes a nice tight shotgun-like pattern. Oops, put that in the wrong spot. Okay, load that up, load this up. And again, it can take a really long time for any of the TNT to ignite, so you're usually safe to just go. Fire 1. Let's take a look. Looks like we took out 2 of the beds with our first shot, and there's a good chance we can get the second one with a subsequent shot. Probably a shorter timing. Alright, 2 shots and the bed is gone. One problem with this design and the normal spread cannon design is that while you're loading it and firing it, you're usually not that safe from enemy arrows. However, it is possible to make it significantly safer. Alright, I have modified the cannon to be significantly safer. You can now load it from here, fairly easily, and then simply Load the charge, and you are mostly immune from arrow fire. And I also added this nice little window here so you can see, though you're technically too close to this so you would take some damage, but... A significantly more protected version of the same basic design. You would only need to protect it like this if you knew you were going to be under fire and you were going to repeatedly use it. Since this cannon is mostly used to target beds, which are going to move after you use it anyway, it may not be necessary to go to all this trouble. What's very nice about the firing pattern of this cannon is that it's very compact but slightly separate, so it works almost like a shotgun. It covers a wide area, which is really good for taking out beds and chests and things that you're not sure exactly where they are, but you know you want to hit them. I'll show you its firing pattern without the constrainers on the side. Without the constrainers on the side, the firing pattern is altered quite a bit. It spreads quite a bit more. Useful if you want to blanket an area, especially if you don't have any redstone to build the spread cannon design. This is one of the favorite designs I've come up with. It requires no redstone, and it is extremely safe to load and extremely safe to fire when it's, covered up a little bit. You simply load up these three, ignite the shot, fire the charge. And this one will shoot a little far because it is a fairly long-range cannon. You could also replace the ladder I have here with a half block to alter its firing arc quite a bit. And there's no need to actually load up all three charges. You can always just put two in to get a different range. Almost hit the TNT down here. This is what it looks like in its safe form. I can load here without any risk of getting hit by arrows. I can also fire it without any serious risk of arrows. I can run over here, take a peek, see where it lands, all under complete protection. To build this cannon, you want to start with two 3-block high pillars separated by one space. On the side opposite of where you will be loading and firing, you want to place a button on the middle block. You want to place 3 blocks out from that pillar as well. Another block here and here. On these two spaces, you want to place half blocks so it's easier to load. You can place a block here. You can destroy it afterwards, but it doesn't really matter. 1 block here. Then you build this up and place that there. This block isn't always necessary depending on what direction the cannon is facing, but always assume that you are going to forget what direction your cannon is facing. You need to decide what kind of arc you want. You can use a ladder, you can use a half block, you can use a hatch that's down, and actually if you place it like this and you use a lever, you can have a somewhat adjustable arc. This pattern here will have the same firing pattern as a ladder. If it's down, it will have a really shallow arc, which is okay. It sort of will just scoot off. But today we're going to use a ladder. You want to place water in this space here. And you need to place your charge firing button right there. To load it up, you simply load up these 3 spaces. Do not put TNT in this space, as it will make your cannon blow up in your face. And the shot goes here. To fire, you press the charge button, and then press the shot button when you're ready to go. If you need to shoot a little further, you can extend the range of this cannon by pushing it forward or backward one. That button will need to go. Let's keep it a ladder. The button will need to go here instead. Let's replace our water. So this adds an extra shot to the charge, and it will go a little bit further. In this case, well beyond what it needs to. If for whatever reason you need even more power, you can do the following. This first block of TNT will actually compress the second set of TNT into a smaller space, which will propel the shot somewhat further. So you need to ignite this one first, give it a little bit, get the second one, wait until the compression charge happens, and then fire the next. But with all the testing I've done, I've found the smaller version works well enough for any purpose you would need in the current RFW2 map. Alright, let's review. Here we have the spread cannon design. It is devastatingly effective when it is used, as you can see by the lack of this bridge and the lack of ladders down there. It is reasonably safe to build. It's expensive to build as the only cannon here that uses redstone, which means you have to have redstone. It is not very safe to load. It is reasonably safe to fire as long as you don't stand right here when you hit the button. And it doesn't take that much time to build versus how effective it is. Next up is the heart cannon. It is really cheap to build as it doesn't require any redstone. It can be made safe to load, but that's sort of something you need to spend a little more time on. It is quite devastating in its firing pattern in that it can do quite a bit of damage to a small area. Its range is somewhat limited, and you can sort of extend this a little bit to get a little more range out of it, but the firing pattern is no longer as condensed. And most importantly, it's pretty. Finally, we have what I've been calling the safety cannon. It is extremely cheap to build, extremely safe to build, it's safe to load, safe to fire. It is not as effective as obviously the spread cannon or the heart cannon in damage, but it does have a longer range. And again, it is the easiest to build of all of these in that it can be whipped together in a very short period of time.